The NFL draft is finally over, with 7 rounds fully concluded now, and the Chargers having made 8 selections. I think we should probably go over the picks, give you guys a little bit of information about these players in case you may not recognize them or know a whole bunch about them. We'll also go over some of their good and the bad that they are going to bring to this team. But if I'm being completely honest, no, I didn't know all of these players before they were drafted to the Chargers, but I'm quite happy with pretty much every selection here. There's a couple here that maybe I could have chose a different player, but I still think the player that was selected was a good pick. So that's what we're going to be talking about now. We're going to go through each player, some of their physical stats, their size, where they were picked, all that stuff. Then we're going to go through what they've done good in their career in college, what they have maybe not done so much as well, and how they can improve on that, and just how they're going to fit well into this team. But nonetheless, if this is your first time on the channel, my name is John. This is the Sports Advocate. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you stay to the end because I have a lot of information for you guys. But if you do like it, give me a like. Or if you don't, give me a dislike. Give me some criticism down below too. And why don't you say what your favorite pick from the Chargers was in this draft? And as always, I have content like this pretty much daily about all sorts of sports. So if you enjoy this, go ahead and hit the subscribe because I really appreciate it a lot. But nonetheless, let's go and get right into this. Round 1, pick 17. I think we all know who was chosen here. This was what was hyped up for so long. There was plenty of options, but it seemed that no one really fell to us that we were hoping for. Charles Cross didn't fall. Stingley went super high. Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, none of these guys fell to the Chargers pick at 17. But the Chargers end up selecting Zion Johnson, a guard. Very, very happy with this pick at 17. Immediate starter for this team. He is 6'3", 312 pounds out of Boston College. He was rated as the number 1 guard in the entire draft, and the fact that the Chargers got him at pick 17 tells you a lot about how much depth at other positions there was in this draft. When you have someone that's number 1 in their position and they don't go till 17, while you have 5 or 6 wide receivers chosen before that, that tells you a lot about the top tier talent in some of these specialist positions. But nonetheless, number 1 guard in the draft. He ended up at the Senior Bowl week. If you don't know what that is, they take all of the seniors, super seniors, and some of these higher divisions, and they all go and they do like tests against each other. Sometimes they do games, just a bunch of like skill tests. But in that, when he participated, he didn't lose a single pass protection rep in the entire week of the Senior Bowl. That's incredible. And not only was he very good at 1-on-1s in the Senior Bowl week, he is an incredible run blocker, which is great news, not only for Austin Ekeler, but also some of these later guys that we'll talk about here. Going to help a lot and give some protection to Justin Herbert alongside this offensive line that has improved dramatically in the last 2 years from Slater to Lindsley. Now I'm assuming Zion Johnson's going to end up at right guard there, and he's going to be a big, big help there. You're just wondering who's going to go at right tackle. I'm probably going to make a video on after this in a couple days or so, remaining free agents, undrafted free agents, maybe what players already on the team may get moved around different positions like right tackle or linebacker, things like that. But let's keep going with what we're doing. He also has a very good job at keeping a low pad level. You know, low man always wins. It's a saying that's been repeated a million times, but he does a great job at keeping low hips. He has very good firm hips. He has really, really good length to his arms. It's like a 33 5/8 length, and he does a very good job at getting him extended, locking in, and keeping these defenders at bay the whole time. His length, he does a great job at getting space between him and not letting him engage tightly and then get shoved off. He's very good at staying into his defender. He's also incredibly strong. He's able to overpower and overwhelm his defenders when he's able to get that first punch. Even some of these strong tackles and stuff that you've seen him go up against, he's able to just really lock into him and hold him off, even push him to the ground and pancake him. He's quite a few pancakes. I don't know if he is going to be his like top tier thing is like pancakes, but he's so good at run blocking and he has tons of potential at pass blocking. He's also very good at being able to pull and move to the second level on running, which is incredible news for this team. But we do have to talk about negatives, and every player has negatives. Even the number one overall pick is going to have negatives. So, negatives, he doesn't have as much twitch as you would hope to see for his lateral movements. Like if someone beats him off the edge or things like that comes across him, he doesn't have as much lateral quickness to get over in front of them or all that stuff if a guy's super fast. But most of the time he's able to keep him in front. It's just his lateral quickness isn't always super quick reaction time to it. He also sometimes overreaches and kind of loses balance if a defender engages and then pulls back to re-enter. Sometimes he'll try to re-engage and get his upper body over his feet and lose his balance a little bit. But not a super common thing, and that's something that will be definitely improved now that you've entered the league and you have these top-tier talented coaches. And lastly, something that he did improve a lot with in his last year in college, but something that he still at times has struggles with, and I'd say he just needs to improve and get more consistent. Sometimes he struggles with stunts and twists, things like that when a guy's cutting directly down on him or you have two people crossing. Sometimes there's a little bit of struggle on who to grab, stuff like that. He definitely improved a lot in his last year, and I would assume he's going to improve a lot. But number one guard in this draft, some people are saying he is the best guard to be drafted since Quentin Nelson of the Colts, which is an incredible all-pro lineman. Very good news if he does turn out to be like that. I expect him to do a lot for this team, and the organization's doing very good at making a very young, good core offensive line similar to what the Cowboys have been doing for so long. And if the Chargers can get an O-line as great as the Cowboys have been forever, incredible news for Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler able to get the wide receivers more time to get open to. Great news for the offense. But next up, switching to the other side of the ball. Now the Chargers did not have a round 2 pick. That was included in the Khalil Mack trade. But round 3, we have pick 79. JT Woods. That's a safety. He's 6'2", 195. This one was a little bit of a surprise. I did know a little bit about him, not a ton, but it was still a little bit of a surprise. He's very versatile DB. He's able to press. He's able to just be a safety over top coverage. He's even probably able to go ahead and play in the box, which is something that I expect Coach Staley to do a lot, use his safeties as people in the box because he's not really a huge linebacker kind of scheme. He likes to use his safeties in the box as those kind of linebackers. He's also extremely athletic, sub 4.4 40, a 39.5-inch vert. Got plenty of speed, plenty of quickness too, not only just his top speed, but getting to that top speed, and he can jump quite well. He was a track star on his team from Baylor, I think I didn't write down these colleges. That was kind of not smart of me. He was a track star, though, running sprints and all that stuff. Very good to see, especially on your team with the amount of fast wide receivers that are now in this league now. Speaking of fast wide receivers, that was probably the one thing I wish the Chargers maybe would have taken a chance on in some of these later picks, taking a fast wide receiver, or some people wanted in this pick right here for like Calvin Austin, but later on, Bo Melton, things like that. Chargers did not take a jump at that, but I will say 100% the wide receiver core is stout, one of the best wide receiver cores in the league, at least one of the best duos in the league. So not bringing in that speed wide receiver, I think they're going to be able to bring in an undrafted free agent or use some guys they already have to fill that position. But JT Woods would be able to cover those very fast wide receivers if he's going up against them with his 4.4 track speed. He's also a ball hawk, has the potential to be a ball hawk in the NFL as well. He had 9 interceptions in 2 years at college. Very good, incredibly good. And you got to remember that they're not playing as many games in a year as the NFL does. So 9 interceptions in less games is extremely good. He also has plenty of hit stick potential. not only in the open field, but when the ball is going up and say a tight end or a wide receiver kind of has to wait for the ball and then kind of float for it, he's able to run up on them and just hit him and knock the ball loose. Very, very good to see. He keeps an eye out for his opportunities to use the hit stick. But again, has to be negatives for every player here. Sometimes he struggles with finishing tackles, not only in the open field, but sometimes if he's coming down for a blitz on the quarterback, he likes to tackle a little high at times, which is a worry not only for flags and penalties, but with these bigger running backs, bigger receivers, tight ends, when you're tackling high, sometimes they're able to pretty much just shrug you off because of their amount of size. So you'd like to see him go a little lower towards the hips, towards the knees of the other players, not like to injure them, but just to prevent penalties and missed tackles. Sometimes he also takes some less than stellar angles, poor angles towards tackles, and will make his error space that he can make an error for in tackles really small by either going kind of where they're already at instead of where they're going to be, and then he's a little bit behind them, so he has to kind of reach and dive for them. At times, that can be a struggle, but he does a pretty good job at the pursuit, so I think that will be definitely improved, especially with Coach Staley at your coach and some great DBs already on the team, such as Derwin James, Asante Samuel, J.C. Jackson. Plenty of people that he can learn from, and I expect him to be able to work on his tackling and his pursuit, which pretty much tackling is his biggest weakness at this time. All three of these negatives were related to his tackling. I think that can be definitely improved within 1 year, one off season with the team. So not a big worry. Next up, Isaiah Spiller, running back, round 4, pick 123, 6 foot, 217. This guy fell a lot in the draft. I don't know if this was my favorite running back. He's definitely very, very good. He was ranked like 3rd in the entire draft at running back, so that's very good news. He has plenty of stop and start quickness to kind of slow down for a cut, to find a hole and gaps, things like that, but he'll get going right away very, very quickly. He's very good in open space at making cuts, juking over, all of that stuff. He's very, very good in open space, and he's plenty capable of going through a man, going and fighting through tackles. But we'll talk about that here in a second here and some of the negatives. He's also very good in the passing game, which is great news for Herbert, but also the fact that Austin Eckler is able to do very similar things. And Eckler cannot be that every single down type of running back. He needs the ability to take rest. I think Isaiah Spiller brings that opportunity to the team, does a little bit of what Eckler can do, does a little bit of what Eckler isn't so much capable of doing every single down. Very, very good news. He's also able to pick up on the blitz. I've seen a couple times where Spiller does a great job. If he's blocking on the pass, there'll be a stray blitzer, whether that's cornerback or linebacker, and he'll be able to fill the gap and get the blitzer to slow down, stop for a couple more seconds so that the quarterback can find an opportunity to find the open man. Now the negatives, like I said, he's able to fight through these tackles. He's able to use his strength, which he has a lot of strength. He's quite a big back, but he's able to use his athleticism to almost make him not seem as big as he is. But at times, I feel like maybe he doesn't use his strength right. Maybe he's not as strong as we would assume he is. But I know everyone wanted a really big, powerful back, and he's not that. He's not a huge power back. He's able to use his strength, but I wish he maybe brought a little bit more to the table in that aspect. I'm sure he's going to be able to truck these cornerbacks and stuff, but when you got two guys on you or stuff, he's good at falling forward, gaining extra yards. He's pretty good in short downs. I just feel like if there's a collapse on a play, I don't know if he's going to be able to break like 2 or 3 tackles to go still get that first down if there's a collapse and a missed block or things like that. He's also not incredibly fast. Now, obviously, all these athletes, if you're in the NFL, if you look at these guys' speed, we're nothing compared to them. I couldn't run anywhere near what these guys are running. He's 4.6 speed. You have similar players like that who run this and are. It doesn't look as slow. I think Le'Veon Bell had something similar in his 40-yard dash time. But a 4.6, you want a sub 4.4 is normally what you're aiming for in like that. That's like really good for the specialists, running back, wide receiver, cornerback, all that stuff. So he's a 4.6, and I will say sometimes when I'm watching him, when he has this open field, he's running and he looks slow. I don't know how slow he actually is, but the way he strides, he almost looks slower than he probably is. There's some times where he has open space and it looks like, oh, you're going to go all the way. And there's a guy that's able to track him down and bite at his ankles last minute. There's a couple times where that happened. He still fell into the end zone. But I wouldn't say don't expect an Austin Ekeler-like capability to bounce out and just dust people. But with everything that he has, his power and his athleticism, I don't think his speed will be a huge factor in a thing. I just thought I should bring it up at 4.6. A lot of people want to go a little bit faster, but when you're having a more powerful back, you can't expect super fast. I mean, Derrick Henry's a huge outlier. Sometimes he struggles with ball security. That's the last thing. I'm not talking Melvin Gordon levels of ball security struggles. Yes, that's a diss. But there are some struggles at times where he's not fully covering the ball. When he's preparing for contact, when he sees contact and he's ready to truck somebody, he does a good job at covering then. But when he's getting chased down and stuff, it seems like people are able to knock at it, or if they're coming from the side, they're able to punch at it. A little bit of a worry there, but that's something that can easily be trained through. We've seen Ekeler, the drills that they'd put him through, just smacking at it all the time. That's something that he's going to be put through a lot. So I expect that to improve in that a lot. Next up, tough name. Otito Ogbonani. I think the last name's close. I don't know about the first name. Otito Ogbonani. Defensive tackle. He's 6'4", 324 pounds. That was a round 5, 160 pick. This guy is a monster out of UCLA. Great at run stuffing. Phenomenal at it. He's able to absorb multiple guys at the same time, and he has plenty of capabilities to be a pass rusher. We'll talk about his pass rushing here at the bottom here. I do have it listed as negative, but it's not as big of a negative as it might be presented as. He has an extremely powerful rip move, not only in live games, but if you watched the... Oh my gosh, I'm blanking so hard. If you watch any of his drills and all that stuff, when he's doing rip moves, when he's doing spin moves, all this stuff, like at the combine, that's what I was forgetting, the combine. I don't know how I forgot that. His capability of rip moves, the power he has in it when he slaps that bag, it is rough. That thing smacks on the floor and comes back up. That's how much power he has behind it. Plenty of strength on that rip move, and he uses it very, very well. He also has enough strength to do a bull rush. Now, I feel like that's not his prime thing that he likes to go for, but if you really tuned into it, amped it up a little bit, and there's plenty of options to help him learn how to do that with Sebastian Joseph-Day, Austin Johnson, all these guys that have plenty of talent. If he used his strength, he could definitely use a power rush and just lock people up and run through them. That's very good news. Now, his negatives, he does have a high pad level. I feel like the second that the ball gets snapped, he's already standing upright. Again, some of these things are teachable. Some of these things aren't teachable. That's something that could be, but that's sometimes a worry. The low man always wins. We talked about that with Zion Johnson. So you'd hope that he can learn to stay lower. Now, the negative that's not a full negative was his pass rush. I don't know how to word it. It's definitely not his highest strength. It's not his strength. I don't know. You got to wonder when you're a nose tackle, when you're a defensive tackle, that center, the guard's going to help on you, so you're not going to see as much pressure in sacks and all that stuff. But you'd hope to see him be able to get through these people, use that rip move, use his power and strength, and run through people. But I feel like anytime that you do see him get through because of his speed, the quarterback's, if he sees it, able to become elusive, scramble a little bit, and get around him and let his lineman re-engage with him. A little bit of a worry, but you can definitely try and teach that by using angles, by using quicker reach, try and get in the way of him. That's not a huge worry. The pass rush is not as big of a worry. It is part of a negative. It's not as big as a worry as some of these other negatives for other players. I do like this pick a lot. I do like it a lot. I didn't know a lot about him, though, being completely honest. Next up, another name that I might struggle with, Jamaree Salyer. Jamaree Salyer. I saw someone try to explain it. Think of like, I'm going to say Jamaree Salyer. He's a guard, 6'3", 321 pounds, around 6, pick 195. This was an amazing, amazing pick if you were to ask me. Very versatile. He played at all 5 positions in his college career, and I mean all 5. Tackle, both sides, guards, both sides, center. Very, very, very good, very versatile. Great piece for depth. Maybe able to take a Matt Filer place if we had to move on from him. He also has very strong clubbing-like hands to really push off on those linemen that are rushing him on the defensive side. So much strength behind those hands. He smokes people. I would hate to be on the other side of his passing ability. He has a very, very wide frame, wide body. He uses his stance very well to use his size. It's very hard for these powerful kind of defensive tackles, edges. It's hard for these powerful guys that don't have a bunch of crazy elusiveness, spin moves, all that stuff to get around him. When it's just power on power, he's going to win most of them. He also has incredible, incredible pass blocking. He's constantly just overpowering, overwhelming other defenders that are rushing against him now. He also, quick thing, I guess you could call this a plus. I just hadn't noted over here on the statistic. 0 sacks against Aiden Hutchinson. When he was blocking Aiden Hutchinson, there was 0 sacks against him. If you don't know who Aiden Hutchinson is, he was number 2 overall pick in this entire draft. Graded as number 1 for a lot of people. Incredible, incredible pass rusher. 0 sacks allowed from Salyer when going against Aiden Hutchinson. Now, in these later rounds, some of these negatives appear a little bit bigger, and that's why they're falling lower. Again, in these later rounds, you're looking at more of depth pieces, more of potential pieces, instead of, hey, this guy's going to be a starter the second he enters the team. People like Zion Johnson are going to be like, that's starter the second you get here. JT Woods, probably going to be used like a starter, but maybe not an actual starter, just moved in a lot. But when you're here in round 6 and beyond, even round 5, you're looking at depth, you're looking at potential. And so some of these negatives might be a little bit bigger than the previous people. He has a slow mirroring movement. You guys all know what a mirror is, but mirroring movements. So if the edge is coming along the side, he's not really able to mirror him and get like this, get his hips around to protect. Or if they're going like this, he's not fully able to get that first foot in the ground and move back on this side and mirror. Sometimes these quick movements, if he reacts to the first one, he might not be able to get to that second one. Again, some of these negatives are, it's tough to say a negative. This is all based on tapes we've seen, all that stuff. Now, once you enter the NFL, it's a completely different scheme. People are better, but you have better coaches, better training facilities, all that stuff. So some of these negatives now could quickly become pluses before we even realize. Just take that in consideration. Next up, he's kind of a helmet first blocker at times. Gets his helmet down and just goes like this. That can leave you a little bit off balance, but it's just a little worrisome, not only for injuries, but being able to actually see what's in front of you. If you put your head down, you might not be able to get full extension and connect to the chest plate because you can't see, and sometimes it gives you a little bit off balance. Not only are you a little discombobulated because you're staring at the floor, but when you're leaning forward like this, you're ahead of your hands, you're ahead of your feet, your knees. You might fall forward if the defender goes and grabs you and pulls you like this, which is illegal. No. Will it be called all the time? Probably not. So that's a little bit of a worry. You'd like to see him keep his head up, chin up. It's something that was always preached to me all the time. Sometimes he gets stiff-legged. This is something similar to some of the other people I talked about. The second that ball snapped, I feel like he comes from this to straight up almost, and his legs are just fully firm, fully flexed. You'd like to see him keep lower in that stance so he's able to move and all that stuff instead of just popping up, and now you're walking around. And when you're straight up, your defender, if he's a low man, he can get under that chest plate and push you up, and now you've lost all momentum, lost all of your base. Not good news. Again, I feel like teaching staying lower is something that's pretty simple to teach. And when you have people that are very, very good on the offensive line, like the Chargers do now, thankfully, I wish Philip Rivers would have had this. That's very good news. But that's my last negative for this guy is sometimes he's stiff-legged, sometimes he stands up. I feel like even when his knees are still bent, he's like stiff, like he doesn't want to move at all, even if he has to move. I feel like this just a little bit of worry, but I think that's probably one of the easiest things to teach for the line. Then we have Ja'Sir Taylor, cornerback. He's 5'10", 186. You know, some of these cornerback picks here late, I expected multiple cornerbacks taken in this draft with how Staley runs his defense. The safety, I think, was a great pick with JT Woods. I do like some of these cornerbacks later on. You could have waited. I think Ja'Sir Taylor was rated as a late 7 to undrafted, and you pick him in round 6. I don't know about that. If you're a big fan of him, I guess that's what you're going to go with. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get into his pluses and minuses. He has very good change of direction with his hips and everything. When someone cuts in front of him, he's able to turn and get along with them very, very well. He's very athletic. He has incredibly quick feet, choppy feet, which is great news. You want to teach that on wide receiver, and if a cornerback is going against these tough wide receivers who are very good at route running and all that stuff, choppy, quick feet that are deliberate in their actions, very, very good thing to see. That's something that's not as much trainable, so that's something very good to see in a guy that you're looking at potential at this very moment. He also shows a lot of great ball skill. Now, I don't think he had any interceptions in his college career, but he's constantly at the point of attack for the ball, able to knock it loose and things like that. I think you teach him a little bit how to get around the wide receivers, stuff like that. He can able to quickly turn it around and get some turnovers for the team, which is something that has been preached hardcore for this team, for this organization since Staley's arrived, and also even when Anthony Lynn was here, it was win the turnover battle, and that's something that he will be able to do. Now, negatives, sometimes he can get overpowered from wide receivers that are stronger than him, using the arm bar to kind of lock him off and then go up with it with one or two hands. Easy to draw penalties against when you're doing that, for one, and for two, just you don't want to see your cornerback get overpowered. I think if you're using him as an every down DB, don't expect that at all. But if you're using him at that, you kind of have to make sure he's away from these strong, big wide receivers because he's going to lose most of these 50-50 balls against them. He also sometimes gets caught watching the quarterback. Now, as you all know, your corner and man in zone, you're guarding these guys, but you want to watch the quarterback, watch where he's looking, expect the pass and stuff. Sometimes I feel like he may be hips turned like this, running, but he's looking back at the quarterback. I'm not. Looking back at the quarterback, and as he's running, his wide receiver already made a cut this way. By the time he looks, the ball's thrown, and he's like, oh, the quarterback didn't throw it to my guy because I'm watching his eyes. And you turn around and, oh, shucks, because he just loses track of his guy sometimes when he's watching the quarterback, watching the backfield. Something a little bit tougher to teach. But I still think Coach Staley's going to be able to turn it around. He wouldn't draft him if he didn't see potential in this guy. I definitely do think that there's plenty of potential in him. Another thing I didn't note, sometimes on double moves, he can get lost. Not lost. There's a lot of space created in double moves against him, which I think you probably know what a double move is if you're still tuned in this long. But if a wide receiver goes like this, jab out, take a couple steps, and then turn back this way. Double move. Sometimes creates space. He will slide over this way too much, and you get an open wide receiver. But again, you're drafting for potential at this point. Now, the first 7th round pick, the second to last pick, we have Deion Leonard, cornerback, round 7, pick 236. Is that right? Yeah. I didn't write his statistics, like his size. That's on me. I apologize, guys. Go ahead and look that up if you're that interested. He's round 7 pick. I forgot to write down his size measurements. Super athletic, sub 4.4. He's fast, which is something that is consistently being chose for Staley on his defense. He has very good bursts at the start of his sprint and the start of his routes. He's very, very good bursts. He's also comfortable in his back pedal, stays low. He's comfortable. His hips sometimes get a little tight, but he looks very comfortable in his back pedal. 2 zones, even man, he looks comfortable doing that. His route understanding can be a little bit worrisome at times, though. It looks like he may not be able to anticipate routes. If a guy cuts in front of him, he won't be able to jump in front of it. A little bit worrisome. That's a thing that can be helped with certain coverages. You can assist a guy that struggles with that. He also had 0 interceptions at Ole Miss. Again, you're trying to help with that turnover rate. I think he had pretty good ball anticipation. He just wasn't able to get to the ball. That's something that can be taught. But lastly, a guy that I think was probably the biggest steal of the Chargers picks in this draft. Couldn't even fit it on my whiteboard. Someone's blaring music outside my window. I hope you guys can't hear that. We have round 7, pick 260, Xander Horvath. He's a fullback, running back mix. Not sure exactly which you want to list him as. He's 6'3", 230 pounds, very big guy. I put every single one of these guys in my thumbnail. That was a thumbnail that took a lot of time. I hope it looks really good, but this guy's huge. His arms looked so freaking jacked. Oh my gosh, that's something you love to see. I wonder if they're going to be using him as a fullback or more like a power back. I talked to the director on his Twitter about, in a Twitter talk show about that, where it seems like the power back running back is what the fullback used to be, and the fullback has switched more into that. And this would be a prime example. He played fullback and kind of running back. He'd perfectly fit the old mold of a fullback, like Lorenzo Neal and stuff like that. But you could easily move him into that power back position. I think those two positions kind of blend together nowadays. Very large size to play power back. I wrote that. I talked about that already. He's quite agile for his size. Not only speed-wise, I think he's able to get to his speed quite well. Even though he's not the fastest, he's able to get to it. But he has pretty good vision. He's able to get around people. Some of his negatives, though, will kind of block out what I just said. He also has very sure hands for Herbert. That's very good news. It seems like every running back they have different things they're supposed to do in the running game, but you are finding people that have very good hands, which is exactly what you want. You want a last-second resort, last-second chance out of the backfield for Herbert if other people are covered. His negatives, he slows down before contact. He sees the contact, he anticipates it, and he kind of slows his feet down. You want to see him drive through the contact, drive through it. Keep moving those feet, keep chopping those feet. I feel like sometimes he slows his stride down, and that's just going to make it a lot easier for someone to tackle you, not only because you're no longer a moving target, but you don't have all your momentum going into the contact. He also loses speed on cuts at times, whether that's jukes or just finding a hole. He can be going full speed at the line of scrimmage, and then at the second level, the linebackers, he'll make a cut, and then he has to restart getting back up to his speed. It's a power back. You got to expect similar things to that. I mean, even Derrick Henry, who's incredibly fast, loses speed when he makes cuts, but he gets back up to it pretty well. He's a one-speed back. I didn't mean to throw it down that hard. I'm not that upset. He's a one-speed back. At times, he gets to his speed. You're not going to see second burst out of this guy. Once he's at his top speed, if a guy's coming up on him, you're not going to see him go, oh, crap, and just start going. Once he's there, he's there. That's all it is. Now that we've covered everybody, I'm not going to do grades on individual people. That's very hard to do. I'm very happy with pretty much every pick here. There's a couple, like I think I said at the beginning, where maybe there's other options that I wanted. Round 5, I like Otitu Bonani. I tried. I really wanted Matt Ariza there. I grew up where the special teams was horrendous, and the Chargers missed, even though they had number 1 offense, number 1 defense. I don't want to see that again. I don't know who they're going to put at punter. I wanted Matt Ariza. He goes to the Bills. Tough. Thought he might have lasted to round 6. Nonetheless, I do like who we chose in round 5. I would have wanted Matt Ariza a little bit more. There's a couple other options here where maybe you're like, oh, we could have took this guy instead or this guy instead. I do like all the picks here. I trust Tom Klesko. I trust Coach Staley. I've seen a lot of arguments. Oh, Jesse Taylor, take Bo Melton there. Or JT Woods. I like JT Woods a lot. Oh, go ahead and take Calvin Austin there. I don't agree with all of them. The only one I'm most upset with is the fact that we didn't trade back up or that he would have fell to us with Matt Ariza. I do like all these picks, though. Overall grade, B+, A-. Now, why am I saying that? Why is it not A+? Why is it not A? I think I'm probably leaning more towards a B+ than an A-, even though A-, B. These early picks helped the draft a lot. Now, I know these last people were for potential, but these last 2 cornerbacks, I mean, you're drafted for potential, I understand that, but it was like, there's a couple other people there that we probably could have took that could have been instant helps, where I know Staley's scheme is going to be different next year, and he's going to use a lot of cornerbacks, but I just feel like we have a lot of talented cornerbacks, and we just kept drafting them. I was like, oh, shucks. But I think I'm going to go with B+. I like all the picks here. Zion Johnson, JT Woods, Isaiah Spiller, all great picks to start it out. Ended it very well. I think this was very good. Very, very good draft. I will say B+ on this. Now, quickly, because we're already at 36 minutes, quickly, let's go over kind of how these guys will fit in. Zion Johnson probably going to be started right away on the right guard. JT Woods probably going to be a kind of switch-in starter. I'd assume him and Nasir Adderley are going to be switching between each other depending on scheme packages and all that stuff. Perfectly fine with that. I think they both are very talented in different aspects. Isaiah Spiller going to be the running back 2, I do believe. This last guy here, Xander Horvath, I expect him to get a lot of snaps and chances to show, whether that's an I package where he's at the fullback or if he's used as a power back. I'm not sure. I think he'll get a chance here. Otitu Ogbonani going to be a big help on the run defense, depending on what we do with Austin Johnson and Sebastian Joseph Day. We could use Ogbonani at nose tackle. Jamari Sawyer, great depth. Great depth. I could even see him being a starter right away if we moved like people out to right tackle, Filer out to right tackle, stuff like that. I could see him being a possible starter right away. Jasir Taylor and Deion Leonard both kind of fit in the same. They're going to be big help on depth. This is potential. This is, can we teach them to get turnovers? And I do like it, especially if injuries were to occur. I do like these picks. But nonetheless, I've ranted long enough. We're almost at 40 minutes. If you're still here, 1, you must be a big Chargers fan. I really appreciate for that because there's not enough of us out there. And 2, you must have liked my content, so why don't you subscribe? Because if you stuck this long through my ramblings, I'm sure you like the next video. And, if later on you decide you don't want to, again, you can click that same button and you'll be off of it. But I would really appreciate it if you stuck this long to go ahead and subscribe. I have content like this daily. Also, give me a like if you stuck this long. Or if I was just in the background and my voice was annoying, give me a dislike because it does tell me that there's room for improvement. And if you give me a dislike, why don't you give me some criticism how to improve in the comments? I appreciate it a lot. Comment who your favorite pick was in the draft. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get to the outro. So, as always, I hope I taught you something. I hope I made you smile. I hope I made you laugh. That something's really important to me. Affect someone else's day in a good way. And lastly, as always, you guys all be safe out there. But something deep inside